Whenever we talk about alcoholism, people think that the effects will affect only the person drinking. In today's episode, we are going to be analyzing the possible effects on your children, the possible impacts of alcohol to the children. Welcome to yet another episode of The Sober Drive. I'm Kajibi Vincent. Before we dive into today's conversation, I would like to thank you guys for subscribing to our channel, always sharing our content and commenting. We encourage you to share with people. We would like to move this journey together till we impact the very last person who is seriously suffering with the alcohol problem. The intention of this initiative, it is to encourage you guys to adopt a healthy drinking habits, and those ones who have nurtured the problems of alcoholism to at least drop alcohol consumption, because it is doing more harm to your body system and your social reputation than the good. In today's episode, I know you would be asking me where Elizabeth is. Normally we host this show together, but today's episode, she's not around. She's going to be doing so much of the technical work. She's going to be so much in production, helping us to capture good quality sound, good quality footage, and of course we would like to thank our co-producer, producer Richard. He has done us a very good job, and we really appreciate. For you guys, continue to move with us because we are still having more impactful and insightful content that we want to share with you guys, and then we improve how people perceive alcoholism, and perhaps we can help those people suffering with this alcohol problem. We should now dive into today's conversation. Very many times people think when they drink or when you're drinking, it is going to be impacting you as an individual. But your drinking, you as a mother or a father, will impact your children, and throughout their lifestyle, they will have to face problems. Psychologically, they'll live with them from childhood up to when they'll become adults. And so we should now first think about how you're drinking, how the way you enjoy your bottle impacts your children. This comes in the psychological way. So whenever you be drinking, just understand that my drinking does not affect me. My drinking is emotionally and psychologically impacting my children. Most of the times, psychological problems or impacts of alcohol to children, you will not see them, sometimes you as a parent, but other people can see them. Psychological means the effects will damage not physically but emotionally, and the entire way how these people perceive aspects in the society. Sometimes it tends to be so severe that you will see it immediately, but other times these people try to cope up with the way they must deal with their drinking mom or dad, and then eventually over time they start nurturing these problems. Very many things are highlighted by the researchers. Researchers have identified very many effects of alcohol, and these ones go both to the parents and their children. But since today's episode is strictly targeting the children, we would like to share with you how alcohol consumption, alcoholism, and the entire alcohol use disorder affects your children. Sometimes it is psychological, and one of the issues that always suppress others or come out so much whenever children start to suffer the effects of alcohol use disorder, you find out that they start developing what we call trust issues. Trusting themselves and the people around will be very hard. Remember, for you as a parent, you're drinking all the time, you're drunk. Whenever they look at you, you look non-sober, and therefore the impact, the effect of your drinking will now start to tell them there is something subconscious of the children that will start hindering them from telling you or sharing with you what they are going through. They can no longer trust you because they believe every time you're drunk, every time you will not listen to them. Sometimes when you drink, you become very violent. Sometimes you're going to end up suppressing everything at home and causing all this chaos. So they tend to lose that love they have for you as a parent. And at the end of the day, the result will be not trusting you. You will not understand what your children are going through. They can no longer open up to you because of that torture they have and the trust issue. But remember, trust issues do not only develop towards you, but they will start now hating trusting other people. They think other people are judging them. Sometimes whenever you drink, children get embarrassed because of the things you end up doing. So they tend to fear even talking to other people for fear of judging them. Sometimes they believe that because my mom drinks a lot, the society thinks she's a nuisance and we are children, or I'm a son or a daughter of a nuisance person, so no one is willing to listen to me, and that way they will not trust anyone with any of the problems they are going through, be it at school, be it with the peers, because sometimes they would have shared with the peers maybe for hope, but because of the fear they have that even their peers are judging them, they will end up not telling you, not sharing with anyone about the problems they are going through, some of which may be causing permanent harm to their lives throughout their lifestyle. So when you drink, just know that one of the things that will go first among your children is the trust they have in you, in themselves, and other people they have. Among the psychological problems children suffer or go through all the time is the problem or the issue of self-judgment. Always they think they are not enough. They will start thinking that because my dad drinks a lot, I'm not enough for the society. Even if they would like to say something in public, in a class, or at home, sometimes they tend to be suppressed within themselves, and they are like, I should not say this, I should not comment, I should not give this answer in class, I should not share with anyone, because anytime I share anything, people will think I'm also drunk. People will think for us we cannot talk because my parent or my dad and mom are drunkards. So we do not understand generally, which is not good, which is not true, and eventually you affect their way of evolving in the society. Remember, learning is a process. It is a reciprocal. You share what you have and you're going to be told whether it is true or right. So if you do not give your children a chance of developing their self-esteem by drinking excessively, it will mean that they will lack that esteem. You're limiting their access to these opportunities they have because they cannot express themselves. And at the end of the day, the challenges will move from childhood, they carry them on to when they are adults. These are the people you find out that in the meetings they have, or in classes at the university, village meetings, or other meetings at work, they contribute nothing. Why? Basically because they believe they are not enough. They cannot do better. They cannot give you anything constructive. All these are nurtured because of the background. Remember, the word, the touch, and the love of a parent always does a lot and a lot to the children. It will help them understand that they are not actually less. But if you do not always be there for your children, if you continue drinking, they will always feel bad, feel small, and self-judge themselves, which curtails them from exercising a lot of activities, limiting their ability to process and take on the possible opportunities around because of esteem issues and self-judgment. The other issue that is so much prominent among children that have been going through what we call impacts of alcohol use disorder by their parents is the issue of approval. Approval is seeing other people approving whatever they have to do. When you look at these children, you will not understand that they are actually going through some effects, or they are nurturing some psychological effects of the problems from home, especially the problems that come with alcohol use disorder. But you find out that these are the people that always need to be told that you're beautiful to stand out in the crowd, to understand that they actually are. Sometimes whatever they have to do must have been approved by someone else. If not, they will always think that they are less, they are not enough, they cannot stand on themselves, they cannot do anything unless it has been approved by someone else. Remember, whenever I do this, whenever your children have to first be approved to do something, you're nurturing that from childhood up to when they are mature people in the society. And those are the families you find out that the parent can never take action, can never do anything, just because the effects, the problems they went through when they were young, when they are going through alcohol use disorder of the parent, always told them that they were less, they were small, so to go through anything, they will seek approval. Those are the people who think that if you do not thank them after doing something, they have not contributed. Those are children who think that for them, they can never do anything for the society unless they have been approved. So approval syndrome is there when you want to prove others that at least you can do something, but even if you do it, you will seek their approval or what they think about what you've done. The other psychological problem that comes with alcoholism is something to do with the normalization, or what we call clearizing the vice. In this case, it is alcoholism. Whenever people grow up with the drinking families, whenever people grow up in families where drinking is becoming a problem for everyone and it is becoming almost normal at home, they will face the problem of normalizing drinking alcohol. Why is this a very big problem to your children? One, it will bring about what we call early exposure to alcoholism. And remember, they are very young. Their bodies cannot withstand alcohol or any other drug. But because they are seeing the parent, mom is drinking, dad is drinking, after drinking they are fighting and all that, they will normalize that the society is about drinking alcohol. If not drinking alcohol, it is about fighting. Whenever you get your wife, it is okay, you can fight, you can beat them all the time and all that. So in order to help your children not to go into this problem of normalizing some of the vices or the bad deeds of the society, like fighting, like seeing alcoholism and drinking excessive alcohol as something that is normal in the society, try to avoid excessive drinking. Alcohol use disorder sometimes tend to affect the interpersonal relationship of your children and other people. Most of the times, people who have gone through, or children that have suffered the impacts of alcoholism at home, tend to find it very, very hard to interact with other people. And the way they interact is always very, should I call it, being introverts. Sometimes they tend to shut the doors to outside world. They do not want to interact with other people. They are always isolated. They cannot share with others in public, and they will end up being affected, missing out, and living a very miserable life just because the parent or the guardian or the father chose to be a drunkard. So if you want to help your children, if you want to help them improve and then improve their interpersonal relationships and the way they relate with other people, their fellow students, their peers, you should always try as much as you can to see that your drinking is moderate, that it cannot affect the psychological beat of your children. And if it is not, just understand that you're giving your children a very big problem that they will nurture throughout their lives. Remember, most of the psychological challenges people go through when they are young, they do not stop at one stage of growth. Rather, they keep growing with them. As they grow up, they continue going through the same problems at different stages, unless they have received different or immediate attention. The other problem that is associated so much with alcoholism and alcohol use disorder with the growth of children is the neglect problem. Parents do not see that this is actually a very, very big problem. But most of the times, especially in Uganda, I don't know about other areas, but I know it cuts across. Most of the times, whenever severe drinking comes in, people tend not to be nuisance, because I don't want to use that language. They tend to be severely taken by drinking or overtaken by drinking. So the effect is that they will neglect their responsibilities as parents at home in terms of providing the basic needs at home, and then emotionally being there for their families. It will cease to be a priority in their life. The priority will change to drinking every now and then. The only problem associated with this is that most of the times children will not grow up as other children that have been exposed all the opportunities for them to explore. Sometimes you tend to neglect giving them food, healthy food, or recommendable food that will help them to grow mentally and then physically. If not that, we shall have another problem of seeing them missing out at school because you can no longer take them to attend education or proper education. So at the end of the day, you're affecting your children unknowingly, which is a very big disadvantage to them. The other point I would like to talk about independently is the way your drinking affects education of your children or of your child. child. Every time whenever they come back at home, you're drunk. And they have started now going through process of adopting to understanding that they are parents always in constant fights, or they are always not around at home. No one is there to help them emotionally and physically. Sometimes you do not take them to better schools because you cannot work fully. You cannot fully work to get that amount of money that is needed to support your children in school. At the end of the day, you end up taking them to very, very poor schools. Sometimes, if you take them actually, because sometimes you do not, they tend to completely neglect their responsibility of educating their children. But if a parent goes an extra mile of taking them to a school, they will take them to something that is very bad or that is of a very low quality, that if they had not started drinking or they were not addicted to drinking on a daily basis and taking on, they would maybe have done better. But because you cannot devote most of your time to working and making sure that you can make money that is much required for you to take your children to schools or learning institutions that are good, they'll end up being affected academically. And then even if you take them there, sometimes they face a challenge of not being enough attentive in classes. Sometimes whenever you take your children to school, when they are nurturing other psychological problems, they are going through what we call stress, depression, sometimes anxiety, sometimes they are going through other emotional problems and traumas. You find out that at the end of it all, they cannot concentrate very well in the class, and so their education is going to be affected. The results as well, they will be affected. The other issue I would like to talk about, it is like a call to every member of the society and every part of us. It is that we should always help people. We should always work towards helping. Besides neglecting their education, sometimes you're giving them a very bad disadvantage of being exposed to alcohol and these other drugs when they are still young. Sometimes whenever some people feel like they are neglected, whenever people feel like they are not enough, whenever people feel like they have no one to take good care of them, children always sometimes tend to find ways of coping up with their problems. That's when they start resorting to using substances and other drugs, alcohol inclusive, because it is common at home. So if you would not want your children to go through such problems, most especially at a very young stage, you would be thinking about healthy drinking habits or quitting alcoholism, because it is much of a melting body to the children, to your family, and everyone. And then sometimes it is not about that affected family that should take action. The society then think that for you, because they are the children, mine are at school, or mine are good, or they are doing well, I'm not a drunkard, I'm not affected with any other social problem. But the problem of nurturing children, improperly raised children, will at the end of the day affect the entire society. So whenever I find out that some children or children of a particular family are going through problems that you can see you as a responsible member of the society, you should help them. You should try to see that you can talk to them such that they are not taken by what they are going through at home and other problems that they are nursing as a result of their alcoholic parents. We need this support system. We need an intervention that is aimed at making sure that every member of the society is responsible, most especially when it comes to, you never know, if one child starts to use these drugs and substances, you find out that they'll now teach your child, the peer influence and all that. They'll teach your child these drugs. They'll teach them how to take them and what they feel sometimes. And because normally we learn from friends or the people we see, the problem might not have originated from your family, but at the end of the day, it is affecting your children too. So whenever we are trying to raise children, whenever we are having people we are raising, try as a responsible member of the society, try to help the parents improve their drinking habits, or help them actually to stop, because that way you will not have done a good to this child who is still growing up, but also to the entire society at large, the society that is looking up to benefiting from this young child. The support system is the only way that is very immediate to us that can help to reduce the impact or the psychological impact of alcohol use disorder to the society. We need to break the stigma. You need to help these people realize that however much the parent is drinking, however much I'm coming from a family that is affected with alcohol use disorder, it is not a very big problem. The problems you as a mother went through or their parents went through do not directly mean that for them they are less, they cannot do better, or they have nothing to add to the society. You will not have hope to them at all. And if you do, you will have done something great. Still, take them to counselors. If you know people they can talk to, you can take them to the teachers. They can talk to friends sometimes. If friends can offer that help and they can be heard, sometimes they just need someone to talk to. Remember, even you who is watching me right now or listening to this podcast, even if you're suffering from what we call alcohol use disorder or alcoholism, it is not the end of the day. And if you're dedicated, if you're interested, and you feel determined that you can actually do this, you can break the glass, you can break this addiction, and we can move together. Always the first step to understanding that you're having a challenge is acceptance that you do. If you do that, always look for a possible of improving. You can start with the people in the community. You can look for a counselor to talk to. And if it is severe, always look for guidance from rehabilitation centers. I do encourage people to use rehabilitation centers, most especially the severe ones. You can go there voluntarily. It doesn't mean that you're mentally unsafe or you're insane or what, but it helps you to recover from your addiction and saving the more years that you would have wasted. This is the Sober Drive. We would like to thank you guys once again for subscribing to our channel, always sharing our content, liking it, and commenting. Make good use of the comment section. You can share there what you would like us to talk about the next episode, how you think we should improve somewhere. Of course, that feedback does a great good to us, and we appreciate it so much. We are dedicated to moving this initiative further, but remember, it must be with you. You should help us to move it far away. I remain Vincent, and this is the Sober Drive.